All right, what does he mean when, what is his reason? He states it pretty clearly. Why did he leave the woods? Not really hard to interpret. He tells you exactly. Sarah, why did he leave the woods?
He said that he had 7 more lives to live. And just because, like, he thinks he's not living his best life. I don't know.
Well, yeah, he says that. It's time to leave. I mean, I just didn't have any more time to devote to this. It's time to go do something else. It's real simple, real practical. 2 years and 2 months. All right, it's time to leave. I don't have any more time for this. I noticed what he said. I thought it was interesting that he'd only been there a week, and he'd already decided that he was in a rut. He made the same path to the lake or the pond from his cabin. So he says we get in ruts. He's a guy who doesn't want to get in ruts and routines, you know, that are, he doesn't like routines. Although there's some things he does like them for, but basically he doesn't. All right, so would you go back to Aurora? Would you read this next paragraph? It's the answer to what he learned. What did he learn by spending 2 years and 2 months at Walden?
I learned this at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet the success unexpected in common hours. He will put some things behind, will pass an invisible boundary, new, universal, and more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within him, or the old laws be expanded and interpreted in his favor in a more liberal sense, and he will live with the license of a higher order of beings. In preparation, as he simplifies his life, the laws of the universe will appear less complex, and solitude will not be solitude, nor poverty, nor weakness. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them.
So what did he learn, in your own words? What did he learn? And the test will consist mainly of quotations. So the quotations are usually the ones I've already, I think always the ones I've listed on these questions. You have questions of economy, where I lived, reading, higher laws, and conclusions. So you have 5 handouts, and it'll be the quotations of those handouts that I'll use on the test for you to interpret. And here, what does he mean? What did he learn? He said, I learned this at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours.
Not give up on what you really want to do, and not always think about the past and leave everything that's negative behind to focus on what you really want.
And I would add just to that, if you have a dream, go for it. If you have a goal, go after it. You will be more successful than you could have imagined. Have you ever done that? Have you ever set a goal? Maybe you didn't reach the goal, but because you set a high goal, you're able to accomplish something. When I was a senior, my entire life I wanted to be a state champion, and I finished 8th. That's hardly a state champion, but I ran in the state champion meet. I qualified, and I ran in that meet. And I don't think I would have been even 8th in the state if I hadn't had my dreams high enough. You know, I just want to run. You know, I just want to get a letter. You know, I just want to get a trophy or something. I probably wouldn't have done as well as I did, which isn't great, but it's something. I did finish 8th. He also said if you build castles in the air, highlight that, because even though it's not on the sheet, I can imagine asking you this question. What does he mean? If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put foundations under them. What did he mean by that? Castles in the air would be dreams. Like if you have high dreams and goals, what's the second step? That's the first step.
Start doing things that will lead to those
you'll never be successful in your goal if you don't work at it. The people that are successful, the people that work hard, it's inevitable. You have to work at it, all right? So that's number 4. Look now to page 265. Actually, I don't know what page. Yeah, 265. Why should we be in such desperate haste? Here, would you read that? 265.
Why should we be in such desperate haste to succeed in such desperate enterprises? If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away. It is not important that he should mature as soon as an apple tree or an oak. Shall he turn his spring into summer? If the condition of things which we were made for is not yet, what were any reality we can substitute? We will not be shipwrecked on a vain reality. Shall we with pains erect a heaven of blue glass over ourselves? Though when it is done we shall be sure to gaze still at the true ethereal, far above as the former were not.
So explain, I have seen many posters in my life with this statement on it. It's maybe his most famous statement. If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured and far away. What does he mean? Donnie, what do you mean? What?
Is it like, I guess like, is it talking about being with other people and like, is it talking about being with other people?
That's part of it. What is he saying about being with other people? What if you can't keep up with other people? Figuratively, like whatever they're doing, if you can't keep up with them, then what's his advice to you? If a man does not keep pace with his companion, what's the reason? What is,
It's like not as good.
well, maybe that's good, but it says perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him keep step to the music which he hears. What do you think he means by that? If you can't do what...
It's to follow what he's best at and not try to be best at everything.
That's right. Not try to conform to other people, but to do what you're gifted to do or what you want to do, and not worry about that you can't keep up with these other people. I think you know that happens in high school a lot, and I think particularly about colleges. I hope you're going to pick a college that's fit for you as best you can tell, not the one that everybody else wants to go to. Just because they're going there doesn't mean you're going to be good at that. All right, so Delaney, would you read part of this next paragraph? It's question number 6. It's a parable. A parable, you know what a parable is? What is it? How would you define a parable?
Just like a fictional story that has a deeper meaning behind it. It's like a life lesson.
Yeah, exactly. It tells a moral lesson. So let's try to figure out what this is. So read about halfway. There was an artist in the city of Carus. The next paragraph.
There was an artist in the city of Peru who was disposed to strive after perfection. One day it came into his mind to make a sack, having considered that in the imperfect work time is an ingredient, but into a perfect work time does not enter. He said to himself, "It shall be perfect in all respects, though I should do nothing else in my life." He proceeded instantly to the forest for the wood, being resolved that it should not be made of an unsuitable material. As he searched for and rejected stick after stick, his friends gradually deserted him, for they grew old in their works and died. But he grew not older by a moment. His singleness of purpose and resolution, and his elevated piety, and endowed him without his knowledge with a
Perennial.
perennial youth. As he made no compromise with time kept of his way, and only
That's fine, and there's more to that, but we won't read it. So what is his point? He says a man wanted to make a perfect staff, and he said he would take his entire life to make it if it takes that long. And so he said, what did working on that thing for his entire life do for him? It says his singleness of purpose and evolution endowed him with perennial youth. His friends gradually deserted him, for they grew old in their works and died, but he grew not older by the moment. So what's the moral lesson of that? Because he had a goal to do something perfectly, and he was committed to it, what were the benefits that accrued to him? What did it say? His companions got old. What happened to him? He didn't age. He said he had perennial youth. Now, we know that's not possible realistically, but figuratively, how is it possible? How does a good work, a good job, doing something, striving for perfection or striving for excellence, something, how does that make you keep young?
We don't give up, I guess.
And how does that make you young? I mean, how does it keep you kind of, not physically young, but it keeps you with that mindset of being young?
You don't move on to the next thing, you focus on.
Yeah, it's because you're so into your work that it provides all this energy and life. And so he's made a comment we talked about yesterday. One way to fight what he calls sensuality is work. One way to stay young is work. I hesitate to think how in terms of if you think I'm old or not. I mean, you know how old I am. I'm almost 70 years old. I hesitate to think what you think, but it doesn't matter what I think matters more, and the same thing is true with you. If you feel young, and I've always said this, teachers, I don't know what's going to happen when I retire, because I think being around young people like yourselves makes us feel, I'm not foolish to think I'm young, but it makes me feel young. Like, I have this advantage of being around 16-year-olds. And yesterday I told you I don't know much about 16-year-old girls, but still being around you it keeps me young, being around 16-year-old students. There's something about that keeps us young. I think that's one reason we keep doing it year after year. And it doesn't have to be teaching, but if you find a lifelong passion, something that you enjoy doing and do it well and do it as long as you can, that's going to keep giving you energy and strength. Do you get that? All right, let's go to number 7. So if you would turn to page 266. I'll read this one. All right, no face which can give to a matter will stead us so well as the truth. This alone wears well. For the most part, we are not where we are, but in a false position. Through an infirmity of our natures, we suppose a case and put ourselves into it, and hence are in two cases at the same time, and it is doubly difficult to get out. In sane moments, we regard only the facts, the case that is. Say what you have to say, not what you ought. Any true is better than make-believe. Tom Hyde, the tinkerer standing on the gallows, was asked if he had anything to say. Tell the tailors, he said, to remember to make a knot in their thread before they take the first stitch. His companion's prayer is forgotten. So what does he mean when he says, say what you have to say, not what you ought. Any truth is better than make-believe. We may not agree with that, but what does he mean?
Just be honest.
Yeah, truth is always better than a lie. Now, what do you think about this? Somebody's invited you to their house for a meal. They fixed the meal. You hated it. Are you going to tell them that? No. So it's a lie that you said it was good or whatever. I don't have a problem with that. Do you? I don't either. I don't know if he's the kind of guy that would tell you, yeah, it's not very good, but appreciate you inviting me anyway. I don't know. What do you think? Delaney, what do you think?
I would not say anything.
What?
I wouldn't say anything.
So you would lie. I mean, I would too. I'm saying, but it is a lie, right? So how do we justify lying about that? Like, how do we say that's a good thing? When we're always talking about we should be telling the truth.
Because you don't want to hurt someone
So-
else. You don't want to hurt someone else.
So there's something greater than the truth here, and that's the other person's feelings. And when it's about something like this, does it matter? You know, does it matter that they're not a good cook? No, maybe some things matter. Like, "Hey, you're really not good at this, or, you know, you really shouldn't do that." But I agree. I don't think that's a problem. Flip the page. Got just 3 more. Say number 8 would be the next paragraph, I guess. Yeah, it is. Would you read that, Sierra? However mean the truth, or, I'm sorry, however mean your life is.
However mean your life is, meet it and live it. Do not shun it and call it hard names. It is not so bad as you are. It looks poorest when you are riches. The fault finder will find faults even in paradise. Love your life, poor as it is. You may perhaps have some pleasant, brilliant, glorious hours, even in a poor house. The setting sun is reflected from the windows of the owner's house as brightly as from the rich man's abode. The snow melts before its door as early in the spring. I do not see but a quiet mind may live contentedly there and have as cheering thoughts as in a palace. The town's poor seem to me often to live the most independent lives of any. Maybe they are simply great enough to receive out misgiving. Most think that they are above being supported by the town, but oftener it happens that they are not above supporting themselves by dishonest means, which should be more disreputable. Cultivate poverty like a garden herb, like sage. Do not trouble yourself much to get new things, whether clothes or friends. Turn the old, return them. Things do not change, we change. Sell your clothes and keep your thoughts. God will see that you do not want society. If I were confined to a corner of a garret all my days, like a spider, the world would be just as large to me while I had my thoughts about me. A philosopher said, from an army of 3 divisions, one can take away its general and put it in disorder. From the man the most abject and vulgar, one cannot take away his thought. Do not seek so anxiously to be developed, to subject yourself to many influences to be played on. It is all dissipation. Yeah. Humility, like darkness, reveals the heavenly lights. The shadows of poverty and meanness gather around us, and lo, creation widens to our view. We are often reminded that if there were bestowed on us the wealth of
Precious.
our aims must still be the same, and our means essentially the same. Moreover, if you are restricted in your range by poverty, it cannot buy books and newspapers. For instance, you are but confined to the most insignificant and vital experiences. You are compelled to deal with the material which yields the most sugar and the most starch. It is life near the bone where it is sweetest. You are defended for being a trifler. No man loses ever on a lower level of magnanimity, on a higher. Superfluous wealth can buy
Superfluities, and it's superfluous wealth.
Only money is not required to buy one necessary of the soul.
The question is, however mean your life is, that means small or poor or little, meet it and live it. Explain this statement in light of an entire paragraph. So what is he telling us to avoid doing? No matter what we have.
Only like confine your thoughts to only what you have and what you see.
And not to do what?
To not have a closed mind about certain things.
Yeah, and not to complain about it. You know, no complain about what you don't have. Be thankful for what you do have. And he made a couple of comments. As long as he had his mind, it didn't matter how poor he was. And he says, it is life near the bone which is sweetest. Have you ever had, can you remember experience in your life where a little bit was really precious, and maybe sometimes where a lot was not. Can you imagine, can you think of a time when you only had a little bit of something, and yet, as you think back, whatever that little bit was actually more meaningful? Maybe it was a meal, maybe it was a gift, was more meaningful than had you gotten a lot of things. I remember my wife and I think we had $20, maybe it was $12. I don't know what it was, but we didn't have a lot of money. We had 2 kids, and it was New Year's Eve, and I'll never forget. I think we had something about $12, and we walked up to the local grocery store. We had a car, but we just chose to walk on Christmas or New Year's Eve, and we bought a lot of stuff with $12. We came back, and our kids, we had this great New Year's Eve. It's the only New Year's Eve I can ever really remember, because we had just a little bit, and yet it seemed because there was just a little bit, and we didn't have a lot of money to buy it, it was more meaningful to me because of that. And that's what he's talking about. Sometimes it says life nearest the bone is sweetest. I guess that means really meat, it's closest to the bone, is actually the sweetest part of the meat in some animal. Anyway, I think that's what he means. Sometimes having a little bit, not all, actually is more meaningful than having a lot. Let's go to the end of this. So if you'll turn the page, I'll read this to you. It's on page 268. It's the bottom of the page. I want you to explain his point here, all right? Rather than love, than money, than fame, give me truth. I sat at a table where were rich food and wine in abundance, and obsequious attendants, but sincerity and truth were not. I went away hungry from the inhospitable board. The hospitality was cold as the ices. I thought that there was no need of ice to freeze them. They talked to me of the age of the wine and the fame of the vintage, but I thought of an older, newer, pure wine of a more glorious vintage, which they had not got and could not buy. The style, the house, the grounds, the entertainment passed for nothing with me. I called on the king, but he made me wait in his hall and conducted like a man incapacitated for hospitality. There was a man in my neighborhood who lived in a hollow tree. His manners were truly regal. I should have done better had I called on him. What does he mean? You ever been to a rich, fancy place, and yet the people were cold, they weren't nice, they weren't friendly, and maybe you've been to a very poor, not poor necessarily, but just ordinary place with ordinary people, and yet you felt very comfortable with them. You know where I see that a lot? I go up to this McDonald's up here on Westridge and Battleground, and they're just high school kids. Some of them may be in college, but most of them are just high school kids. Some of them are so polite. They have just immaculate professional manners when it comes to their job. I don't know what they're like in real life, but sometimes it makes me feel like, wow. I've been to restaurants where the waiter hardly looked at you and acted superior to you, but these kids over there at McDonald's, just their politeness makes you feel like, feel really good. And so he's talking about people who have little, who are ordinary, who are low in society. The things that matter aren't those things. The things that matter are hospitality and truth and kindness. And you don't have to be rich to have those things. All right, since I explained it, let's look at the last 3 sentences. Turn to 271, the last paragraph. Delaney, would you read the last paragraph? It's 3 sentences long, and I want you to write down what you think he means. And when we take the test, you're going to be explaining things like we're doing here. Take a quote, explain it. Or I might just ask you, what's the reason why he left the woods? What's the reason why he went to the woods? But sometimes I'll just put a quote and say, what does he mean?
Where do you want it to start?
Last 3 paragraphs. The last paragraph. I do not say John or Jonathan.
Alright, sorry. I do not say that John and Jonathan will realize all this, but such is the character of that morning, which were lapse of time and has never made it strong. The light which puts out our eyes is darkness to us. Only that day dawns to which we are awake. There is one more day to dawn. The sun is about a morning star, but a morning star.
Well, you're gonna have to read, you're gonna have to read it again. I want you to write down what you think he means. This is his last parting words in this book, which I hope there were things about it you like, but either way, he's done. So write down what you think he means. What do you think? Or what do you think?
He says that life is simpler than we think and it isn't complicated to be happy and have a good life even if you don't have everything you want.
I like it. Delaney, what do you think?
You need to make the most of what you have and what you're good at. And like, you need to make the most of your life too.
You want what?
Like, it will always be there, like opportunities.
Okay. What do you think, Sierra?
Well, I didn't actually understand it at all.
Well, I think you're on the right track. Let me just add this to what you said. He talks about morning a lot, the word dawn and light, morning, several times. And I said the actual morning is not what, right, just listen before we go. The actual morning is not what matters, it's our attitude. And basically you both said that in some degree. Your attitude is more important than the so-called